This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
During her law enforcement career, she witnessed and investigated numerous horrendous violent crimes against children, plus dealing with the trauma after being stampeded by a crowd. And she's coming right up on the Law Enforcement Today show. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Today radio show. I'm your host. My name's John J. Wiley. In addition to being a radio broadcaster, I'm a retired police sergeant. For the latest news articles and much more, check out our website, letradioshow.com. In the Law Enforcement Today show, we'll be joined by special guests. We'll be talking about their experiences and issues affecting law enforcement officers, first responders, their families, their community, and victims of horrendous crimes. Be sure to like us on Facebook. Our page is Law Enforcement Today Radio Show. Check out the daily articles on our website, letradioshow.com. And while you're there, download our free app. The Law Enforcement Today show is brought to you by 4patriots.com. That's the number 4patriots.com. They offer the world's best survival food, the Patriot Power Generator 2000X and more. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code LET to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store. You'll also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order. Plus, free shipping on orders over $97. And a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com. That's a number 4patriots.com. Use code LET to get 10% off. Connecting with us from the great state of Texas, we have Susan Rodriguez on the phone. Susan is a retired Dallas County Sheriff's Deputy, 31 years on the job, and she's still part of the Sheriff's Posse, which she'll explain in a moment. She's author of the book She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armored God, and her website is susanthecop.com. Susan, thanks for being guest on the show, and thanks so much for your service. All very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
31 years on a job. That's a long time.
It is, but I just feel like I'm getting warmed up.
You feel like you're just now getting warmed up?
Absolutely.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes. It's something that is in our blood. It just doesn't go away. It just doesn't die. And so I joined the Sheriff's Posse, and I'm working on 45 years now of carrying the same badge.
Wow.
For Dallas County Sheriff's Posse. That's
insane. Listen, from a brother to a sister, maybe it's time to retire and find something else to do. Law enforcement is... it's a young person's game. I say it because of the physical injuries, which we'll talk about yours. I got dinged up. My career was over at the age of 33. I got retired after multiple surgeries, and I wasn't ready. But the problem is you don't really start getting good at being a cop until you got 7, 8, 9 years on the job.
Absolutely. About the time you get to know and get seasoned and really get good at what you're doing, that's when the fun begins.
Yeah, and it's such a people job, and people ask me all the time, and it sounds corny, and I'm going to ask you this. They said, why did you want to go to police work? I wanted to be a priest first, but I realized I didn't have the calling. The celibacy was an issue for me. So I went into police work because I wanted to serve and help the people in the community, and that was my honest answer. Why did you go into law enforcement?
Well, I had never planned to do that. However, it was the only door that opened. You go, back then, women in law enforcement back in 1978, it was almost unheard of. There was only a handful of women. But that door opened to the academy. And I thought, well, I can either sit here at this clerk job and not be able to afford to pay parking at Dallas County, or I can go to the academy, go through that door. And I seriously really thought about it. And I thought, how am I going to do this? I'm 5'2" and 3/4 on a good day.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've always been a big guy since puberty hit. I've been a big guy, and I had the same concerns and fears. Am I big enough? Am I strong enough? Am I tough enough to do this job? And that was 1980. And I don't think it's unusual for women to say the same thing because of their size and stature.
Oh, not at all. In fact, but one of the females said, look, they'll train you. We have the best trainers. And I had the trainers that were the motorcade escorts in the Kennedy motorcade the day of the assassination of President Kennedy. Those were my trainers. They were actually the escorts, and they had moved to the sheriff's department. One retirement, they go to another, and they were the best of the best. So they equipped me as I went. They really worked hard to get me up to snuff. They knew I needed everything I could get. And I soaked it up like a sponge. It was really good info, and it carried me through today as we speak.
See, I'm of the same era as you. I started in 1980. And in Baltimore, they had probably more women than Dallas did on the job, but there still weren't a lot. They were still very much a minority. One of the things that you said that I keyed in on was, hey, it was either be a clerk and not be able to afford to pay parking or do this and be able to force them. I started and I was making $13,280 a year, and I was broke, so broke. I needed to have a roommate to get a horrible apartment.
I can relate. I mean, I could not even afford toilet paper, and I was living in a one-room shack out in the cotton field with no running water or air conditioning or even power. So I knew it was time to move, make a move, and get into the academy and just, suck it up and go with it. And it was the thing to do. It was a calling, like you were saying.
And I'm glad you did it. I really am. And there's so much about your story we want to talk about, but I want to get a little bit more information about Susan. And by the way, her book is called She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armored God. They'll give you a little bit of a hint about what Susan's about, and her website is susanthecop.com. When you say cop, some people get offended by the term cop. I'm not one of them. If I call someone a cop, it's a compliment. If I call someone a street cop, it's the highest compliment.
Well, I've been called it all, and I've learned to grow just all kinds of feathers and let it roll off. And but the Susan the Cop, people started calling me that because there were so many Susans in the choir, and so they said, no, we're talking about Susan the Cop.
That's how you got that name.
That is it.
Singing in the church choir?
Yes, sir.
No, not Susan who drives a Pinto. Susan the Cop.
Exactly. I would have never dreamed that I would be coined that name because I had other names.
Name. That is such a great name. By the way, I knew there was a thing in Baltimore. You knew you arrived when you got a post and you were responsible for that post, and people started giving you a nickname on the post. Was that a thing in Dallas? Were you given a nickname?
Oh, we all had nicknames. I had many out on the beat. I was called Turbo because I learned to put on the handcuffs really fast. I had to get them on it quickly. We're like rapid. And so Turbo and Slick, and because they used me to get the doors open with the blonde hair. Sometimes, it's just easier sometimes to, And I was, they hoisted me up into the attics. I was easy to get in windows. I was small. See, I was good for something. Everybody has a gift.
Right. And,
we've got our slammers, our guys that are 6'5" plus. And then, of course, I was real handy under the houses. These fugitives, they go where you, with the canines, and I kind of felt like I was a bloodhound. Sniff them out.
I say that because, and I'm laughing, not at you, I'm laughing because I can relate so much. Number one, my nicknames were Bigfoot because I wear a size 13 shoe, Deep Throat because of my voice, and the other one was Hoghead because I have a really, really big head. And I was okay with all of them. I loved when people started giving nicknames, they also, and people would think that it was all adversity all the time. It wasn't. Most of our job was not locking people up. And even when we did, the very, very few of those were hardcore dangerous criminals. However, those could mess up your day and your life if you weren't careful. We're talking with Susan Rodriguez. Susan is 45 years in law enforcement, 31 years at Dallas County Sheriff's Office. She's author of the book, She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. And her website is susanthecop.com. When we return, we're going to talk about when she was stampeded by a crowd. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Authorities are now checking our grid for vulnerabilities. They've identified 9 key substations. If these substations are attacked, power could be knocked out from coast to coast for up to 18 months. Imagine a blackout lasting not days, but weeks or months. Your life would be frozen in time right at the moment the power fails. Lights all over the country would go out, throwing people into total darkness. That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. With the new Patriot Power Generator 2000X, you get a solar generator that doesn't install into your house because it's portable. You can take it with you, even use it inside. But it's powerful enough for your phones, medical devices, or even your fridge. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use code LET to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in a store, including the Patriot Power Generator. You also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order. Plus, free shipping on orders over $97, and a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com. That's the number 4patriots.com, and use code LET to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code LET to get yours today. Return our conversation with Susan Rodriguez. She is retired Dallas County Sheriff's Office, 31 years on the job, still on a job with a sheriff's posse, 45 years in law enforcement. She's author of the book, She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God, and her website is susanthecop.com. Many of us go through lots and lots of trauma, and we're going to talk about some of those things that you went through. One of the things that I'm very sensitive to in my ripe old age, Susan, is too much noise. When too many people are screaming, too much movement, too much whatever it is, I start to, I tell my wife, the boss, we got to get out of here. I can't deal with it. You, in your experience in law enforcement, got stampeded by a crowd. Are you capable of talking about that?
I am. It's still as fresh on my mind as it was back in 1992. This was just right after the Rodney King that happened out in L.A. So there was a lot of tensions amongst the police and the community. However, it was early one hot summer morning, and we thought, well, let's just go to these apartments, these kind of sleepy apartments, and let's just work a misdemeanor warrant. Let's just do something easy for once in the morning. I never have been a morning person. However, I knocked on the door, and it was pretty dark. It was nobody was up. It was about 7 in the morning. The sun had barely gotten up. And so a male came to the door. He answered the door, and obviously he was our wanted person because I served warrants for decades. So there was a lot of apprehensions. So we stepped in, and, I noticed he was built like a boxer, like a diamond-shaped boxer. He had like an 8-pack. He was very well built in shape. And so I explained to him just really kind of low-key that he was going to have to go with us, that he was under arrest, that we would have to take him before the judge. He had a warrant. And really, I never expected this. And in a flash, he leaned back and started screaming, "Mama!" It just sounded like the abominable snowman. It just, the sound, from the back of the dark apartment came, it seemed like 8 to 9 kinfolks, just brothers, sisters, uncles. And we were engulfed in like a tsunami. Just didn't see it coming. And my partner, he's pretty good size. And I looked over at him, and one of the kids is on his back with some drumsticks. He's drumming on his back with the drumsticks real hard.
Like from a drum kit or like from Thanksgiving dinner?
From it was drums, like a bass drum, and was really beating on his back pretty hard. And but we had so much going on, and people, were just bouncing them off of us. But somehow, this our wanted person was able to get a hold of my wrist, and it was my gun hand, which I'm right-handed.
Right.
And I thought, oh boy! And I tried every move that you could think of, every kick, every gouging, and just every move. I tried to rush him in, and it worked for a split second. But he was locked in on my wrist, so I couldn't get to anything. Couldn't get to my portable radio. Couldn't get to my gun. Couldn't get to anything that I needed. So I tried all the moves in the academy. And so what happened was, somehow I had this burst of energy, because during that I saw my family before my eyes. I mean, we were engulfed with these people. We couldn't breathe. We couldn't get out from under it. And so I saw my daughter flash before my eyes, and my mother and I had this supernatural energy, and I pushed him back. I actually rammed him back and it knocked him off balance. And so I was able to begin getting the cuffs on him. And with that last click of that wrist, because my partner is still dealing with the rest of the family over there. It was strange. I was able, that last click of that handcuff, they just fell away from us. It was bizarre. And he went with us. We went downtown. We had to, kind of got him to the car and get him in the car, belted him in. Well, we got him downtown, and we found out later that was a high-tension apartment. I had not worked that beat. That was a new beat for me to work. It was high tensions in those apartments, and the police did not go in there unless they had multiple squads. I didn't know that, so we got in
kind of like by surprise.
Exactly, on a little misdemeanor warrant.
What you said, and I didn't. This didn't go by me, because I made a mistake many times. Man, I hope it's a quiet night. I hope nothing bad happens. Let's just do some quiet misdemeanor warrants and it'll be A-okay.
There you go.
And next thing you know, you're in a fight for your life.
Exactly.
Isn't that how it goes a lot of times, Susan?
It is. Okay, so I worked violent crime. I worked felony warrants and escapes and murder, capital murders. That's what I'm expertise in. However, this little misdemeanor warrant just was a sidewinder. We call them sidewinders in Texas. It's a snake, and it just hit from the side. And out of nowhere, we're blindsided. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't get. When we would serve warrants, let's just say search and seizure warrants and their drug raids, you know things can go south in a hurry. So you kind of prepare and you have a game plan. You know what you're getting into, and you've got all the equipment. Then you get the routine, which should be a routine call for service, and it turns out it's not. You're in a fight for your life. Quite often, those can be the ones that are costly. And we had an old saying, I don't know if they had it in Dallas, complacency kills. And it always kills in police work. Yes. You couldn't ever relax for a second. And that proved it right there, that just a little, Class B misdemeanor warrant would just about get you killed. And so
did you feel like you were in a situation where, look, this could go either way, and this could be a life and death situation for you?
Absolutely. I feared for my life, and I thought, if I can ever get loose, I said I'll probably use deadly force. And I had spent many years always figuring out a way to get around that. But this time I knew that's what I would do. But, I couldn't get loose. And I had a partner once, he always said that we could all be had out there, all of us. It doesn't matter how big, how trained.
We had that saying, too. You could be the world's best fighter. You could be a big, strong guy, and someone's luckier or crazier than you. They take a shot, they get you on the chin, on the button, it's lights out, they get your gun, and you're done.
That's it. Just like that.
And quite often, what a lot of people don't tend to realize is, and this is one of my main beefs when you see the headlines, police shoot unarmed man. In my situation, the suspect was unarmed at the beginning, and then he made a play for my weapon and tried shooting me while the gun was still in my hand. And the one thing I can tell you, Susan, is I had the same line of thinking as you, very similar. I remember thinking clearly, and I'll probably remember this to my dying day. This guy is trying to kill me. I'm going to die, but it won't be tonight, and it won't be because of him. This is Law Enforcement Today's show. Return to our conversation with Susan Rodriguez. She's author of the book. She's a county Mountie from Bulletproof Vest to Armor God. Her website is susanthecop.com. We got so much more heading your way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. There's only one official Facebook page. What you do a search on Facebook for Law Enforcement Today radio show. Click like and follow. There you'll find updates about upcoming episodes of the radio show. You can contact me. We also find unique, one-of-a-kind editorials and news articles. That is our Facebook page, Law Enforcement Today radio show. Be sure to click like and follow. And if you're on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app, be sure to look for me and follow me. My name's John, the letter J, Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y. You can also search for @LET Radio Show. That's John J. Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, @LET Radio Show on the Clubhouse drop-in audio chat app. Return to our conversation with Susan Rodriguez. She is retired at Dallas Sheriff's Office, 31 years on the job, still on the job with the Sheriff's Posse, 45 years in law enforcement. Her book she wrote is called She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. Her website is susanthecop.com. In your 31 years, Susan, it's safe to say that you encountered a lot. And one of the things I try to tell people is there's certain things you can't unsee. You can't undo. And I've gotten really good intentionally about forgetting people's names. I don't want them occupying a single inch of space in my brain for even a moment. However, things come up that are uninvited, unwanted, and it's memories from the past that are just like it was there. And it could be a smell, it could be a sight, it could be a sound, it could be a song. And I got to get back to where I need to be. I'm sure you went through some of those as well.
Oh, I did. When you're working the front lines of Dallas, Texas, pushing back on crime, you've got a story for just about every house, especially if you've done this for decades. And I can drive through the city or through the county. We have 902 square miles of Dallas County, so it's a big territory. But there's a story for every other house. And it's just, the memories come back like yesterday. And that's why I decided to write this book, because I wanted to share those and in hopes that it would, help people see how we have to operate through officers' lenses, through officers' glasses.
It's not what the news media puts out there. And one of the things I struggled with the most is violent crimes. I say violent crimes, not just murders and assaults, but sexual crimes against children. I also had a tough time when it came to the elderly or people who are mentally disabled and not able to defend themselves. I really struggled with those. And to be honest, I'd love people to think I'm a big tough guy. I'm not. And I still think about those issues, those incidents from time to time.
Oh, they do. They come back. And you reevaluate over and over how you handle these situations. And at the time, we do what's best. We work in good faith, and we do what's best with what we have at the moment. We try. We're just people, humans trying to do the job of Superman.
Sometimes to do a superhuman job. I have to remind myself all the time. And I'll be honest, you who helped me with this the most, Susan, were Vietnam combat veterans. Look, they would say, I'm not God. I'm not Superman. I was just a guy doing the best I could at the time with what's in front of me. So some of these crimes, and a term we hear thrown around quite a bit is justice, or closure. I don't know about either one of those. I don't think they really exist.
I didn't think so either, but I noticed throughout the years that there's consequences for every action, and those consequences would play out, whether they would be in the courts with the judges and how the sentencing, or it would be in prison.
Oh, yeah.
Or just, somewhere down the line, there's a ebb and there's a flow.
I agree 100%. I never found anything that with the victims, we use homicide victims as an example, where they felt closure and justice was served, and all of a sudden life is good again. That wasn't the case.
Right.
My dad died of lung cancer almost 30 years ago, and I tell people to this day, it doesn't get easier, you just get more used to it. I think that's, but as cops, we try to resolve a situation. So one of the things I want to ask you about is, in particular, trauma against children. You had more than your fair share of that, didn't you?
I did. Matter of fact, because we always had these special assignments of taking these prisoners on what they call a down and out of jail. And for some reason on this case, the supervisor had given us a detail of taking this man, this inmate, prisoner, who was in for capital murder. He had gunned down his the mother of his baby and the baby. Okay, so we were ordered to take him to the funeral home to view the bodies. And we were questioned the whole time. So we went, shackling, belly chained, and leg iron, the whole bit, down and out, up the ramp, out into the free world, and down into the funeral home on the side door. We got him out. He was pretty quiet the whole time. Once we got inside, the site, it's like you said, you want to unsee this stuff. I'm still probably in shock today by the sight, but it was a pinkish, grayish casket. The mother of the baby was in the casket. It had the satin pillows and the things like that. And I was hanging on to the prisoner because we've had too many issues at these funeral homes. And so I looked, and there's the baby, or the toddler, actually the toddler, in the same casket with her, with a storybook in his lap, and there's these valentines and teddy bears all kind of stationed around the two. I was kind of taken aback. I mean, I thought I'd seen it all, but you see, when you think that, you see one more thing that takes you aback. And then, to my surprise, our prisoner, now he's all chained, he's jingle belling all the way, and he lunges forward toward the casket, and he yells an explicative and calls her a name, and it's not nice. And he said, "You deserve this." So we pulled him back, and he was gloating. And, you question why the upper echelon do the things that they do. Well, I'll never know. I don't know if they were trying to appease the family by letting him go see. I don't know if they just didn't have the facts. You got to weigh everything and know that maybe they just didn't know what they were ordering.
Say it, Susan. Most of the time, they don't seem to understand the consequences of their actions and their decisions.
Yes.
I'll say it for you, because you can't. Sometimes some of these people, I really believe, especially with police work, when I say police, sheriffs, law enforcement, cops, you name it, so many of the decision makers, the shot callers, the admin, the command staff, they make their decisions based off what they call optics, because they're politicians and they're afraid of how things look. Look, we don't want to look like the bad guy and leave this guy in jail and not let him go to the funeral home. Not even taking consideration the guy was an animal to begin with.
Yes, and also it was that time where tensions were really high. It was that 1991, after the Rodney King incident, which is horrible, and so things were really tender at that time, and they were trying to keep the peace. But that stuff, how it trickles down to our front line, to us. You were a sergeant, and out there pushing back. And
we just want to make sure that the job was done and everybody was taken care of and everybody went home. That was the main thing. I got to ask you this, because I do remember the Rodney King thing. I don't know of one cop that said, "Oh, that was okay." Not one. Yet when I was in Baltimore, people would treat me differently based off what cops in Los Angeles did. And Dallas, they've gone through the things where they had multiple officers killed based off of someone's response to what somebody else did somewhere else in another part of the United States.
Absolutely. I could tell the tension, feel it in the air, just as you would get out on the streets for that, to do what we do. You knew if things were upset at the top, you could feel it on the street.
Yep. And they would say the tension's so thick you can cut it with a knife, and sometimes it felt like that. We are talking with Susan Rodriguez on the Law Enforcement Today show. Susan's retired, Dallas Sheriff's Office, 31 years on the job. She's still doing law enforcement as part of the Sheriff's Posse's 45 years on a job doing law enforcement. She's author of the book, She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. Her website is susanthecop.com. When we return, we're going to talk about the after effects of this trauma, how she dealt with it, and then her book. This is Law Enforcement Today show. Lots of great things heading your way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. One of the most frequent questions we see is, where can I find great podcasts? Do you have any suggestions? Yes, we do. So we decided to start our own podcast network on Law Enforcement Today. That's right. You can find top podcasts about law enforcement on our website and our free app. Go to letradioshow.com, click the Be Heard tab, and there you'll find the LET Podcast Network. We'll be adding more podcasts from first responders and more. Again, to find the Law Enforcement Today Podcast Network, go to letradioshow.com and click on the Be Heard in our menu, or download our free app today at letradioshow.com.
I am Meg Marie O'Rourke from Harmony with Food. Do you ever wonder what foods you should or should not be consuming based on your own unique needs? At Harmony with Food, we are now able to determine exactly what foods we should or should not be consuming through advanced testing. Test, don't guess is the motto at Harmony with Food's BioUnique Boutique program. It has never been easier than now to determine what food, drinks, and supplements you need for your individualized needs. Head over to harmonywithfood.com and click on the testing tab.
This is the Law Enforcement Today show. Return to our conversation with Susan Rodriguez. My name is John J. Wiley. Susan is retired Dallas Sheriff's Deputy, 31 years on the job. She's still involved in law enforcement, working as Sheriff's Posse. Has 45 years on law enforcement. She wrote the book, She's a County Mountie, From Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. That'll let you know a little bit about Susan, which we'll talk about soon. And her website is susanthecop.com. Susan, I got to ask you this. After all the things you've gone through in police work and law enforcement, there had to be a time where, like, how do I get back to being the kind of person I want to be in spite of all this trauma and the effects? Because I'm sure they're profound for you as well.
Yes, with all the, through the decades of warrant service, and then, of course, working at the gun range and training out there. And, of course, I had an escapee out there running around, and he was armed. And, you got to learn to trust your instinct. And so what I did was I had to do something, an outlet, and of course it was running. I wound up running. I was like FloJo. I could, run marathons or half marathons anyway. I took up other interests, other things that, knowing that there's life outside of the squad car, outside of, the law enforcement realm. And I kind of started doing the tracking these missing children, missing people, and human trafficking as well. So you kind of get another outlet, another focus. It's a great diversionary to get away from that grind, that the stress, and just that mundane, that the stress that wears down, you begin to become dull.
Right.
And that's where I think it's kind of dangerous.
I think the exercise was huge for me. Exercise combined with prayer. And I'm not a runner. I'll say it again. I'm not a runner. I hated running in the police academy. If you are not chasing me with a gun, or I'm not chasing you with a gun, I'm not running. However, absolutely, when I'm at the gym, Susan, I'm the guy who doesn't talk to people. I've got headphones on, and I'm doing simple things like focusing on every breath, every repetition, and prayer. And for me, I found that combination really slows down my brain and gets me to focus on the more positive sides of life, the things I can do something about instead of dwelling and ruminating over old bad stuff.
Yes, you got to trust that there is a plan, and it's good. It's a good plan. And that there are consequences, and that it'll be dealt with, and that we can't control everything. However, there's a lot that we can do to stay focused and still move ahead and be, a light,
and
a good light.
You made a mention and that you could run, and you were a runner like FloJo. A lot of people don't know who FloJo is, especially young people now. I knew exactly what that reference was. I
knew you would.
Are you saying I'm old? Come on, Susan.
No, I wouldn't say that. But it's a matter of focus, and so I started thinking about other things, other hobbies. I play guitar. There is a life outside of the 8 to 8 hours or 10-hour shift.
Right.
And boy, you have to shift these things and do something different and let that stuff go, blow off steam. We used to go dancing. We danced on these dance floors. They were sawdust floors. They were great. Texas, the Longhorn Ballroom. And us officers would get out there and line dance and just have the best time, blow off steam, be ready for the next tour of duty.
Right. There's so much of that I still like to do. The difference is, and for people who know me know this, I don't drink. I gave drinking alcohol like 31 years ago, but I really focus on, I want to do positive things with what's left of my time. And I want a lot longer, to be honest with you, Susan. One of the things I wanted to do is two things I thought when I was retiring from police work. I was like, one, I was going to open an Irish tavern, which I'm so glad I never did. And the second one was I was going to write the great American novel or book, which I never did because it's a lot of work. You wrote a book. Your book is called She's a County Mountie from Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. How did you get inspired to write this book?
Well, I kept telling people about these stories, and I think they just got tired of me talking. They said, you need to write a book. And so I did. I condensed probably almost 60 years in here because, it goes way back. It goes back to the Kennedy assassination, that era, and it moves forward. So it's hard to condense all that, but I'll tell you, it's very impactful, very captivating book. It's true stories. But it was really hard to get that on paper at times and get it, proofread and get it just the way it was and get it said just right. It was a big project.
A lot of work, I'm sure. Was it part of therapy for you?
I think it was. The stuff that I've been talking about here earlier, I was able to get it out. I think it's really important to talk to, to get it out on paper, get it out somehow, talk to people. Like you said, pray about it, and like prayer. And so, it's very important to vent. Somebody said, well, it sounded like you might have been venting. Well, probably so after all these years. And because so many times we were hushed, we were told you can't talk about this. You can't, we could never talk to the media. You could never tell our side. So they painted pictures that weren't true. So it tend to build up in an officer, the frustration,
right,
the fear, the anxiety. But there's a way to let that stuff go.
And right now, a lot of police still can't talk, and they're not allowed to talk to the media, for sure. And we can talk about that at length in a later episode of the show. Would you recommend to someone, hey, write a book about your story, especially, let's just say police, write a book, knowing what you know now and how long it took you to do it? Would you suggest people follow your lead?
Oh, I would. In fact, because everybody has a story. Everybody has a message. Everybody has, and it's different. It's their own. And there's no other blueprint like, you or me. And it's like a snowflake. There's no two alike. And it's interesting. People love stories. They love true stories. I hope everybody writes their story. Everybody's got a story, and it is important. Each word is important, the message. So I really hope that everybody would write a book. They can self-publish. You've got a computer that'll read it to you, the edits, and it'll read out loud back to you. You can hear how it sounds. You could even dictate it if you want to. It's really a lot easier now than I think what it was with the typewriter about 50 years ago.
How long did it take you from start to finish?
Well, I started in 2015, although I was working with old arrest reports and things from the 80s. And but 2015 is when, but I really didn't knuckle down until COVID, the COVID lockdown thing. It was, I just, we were all locked down, so I decided to go ahead. And what happened was all I did was get in an overstuffed chair, and I got my phone and started writing on my notepad with a phone. It wasn't with a pen and paper, really, not at that point. And it just flowed. It just started coming. It's like I went back to those years, decades ago. I could, it's the smells like you were talking about. You could see and hear, and, we had the Great State Fair of Texas in my beat. And I went back to the fair days where we would get a lot of top tens. I ran on Crime Stopper tips. So we'd run on those tips, and I caught one under the candy apple stand. You just never know where law enforcement will lead. It's like a box of chocolates.
It's like the box of chocolates quoted in the movie.
Exactly.
The name of your book is She's a County Mountie from Bulletproof Vest to Armor of God. Besides your website, which is susanthecomp.com, is there any places where people can get it?
Ingram Sparks. It's supposed to be in Barnes & Nobles and Walmarts and things soon. Not sure when. I'm working on it.
Gotcha. And your website, susanthecomp.com. Can people find out more about you, find out more about the book, get in touch with you as well there?
Absolutely. Just shoot me an email.
And I imagine you're available for speaking and all that stuff as well, aren't you?
Yes, 24/7.
Awesome. Susan, I appreciate your service, and we'll talk about retiring and getting totally out of the police game sometime in the future. But thanks for your service in law enforcement, and thanks for being a guest on the Law Enforcement Today show. All very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
I'd like to thank our guests so much for coming on the Law Enforcement Today radio show. The Law Enforcement Today radio show is a nationally syndicated radio show broadcast on numerous stations once a week and growing. If you enjoyed the podcast version of the show, please do me a big favor. Tell a friend. I'll be back in just a couple days with a brand new episode of the Law Enforcement Today radio show and podcast. Until then, this is John J. Wiley. See ya.